Mm. Good evening. It's Friday night. I'm Mike, also known as 40 Mike of Hellfish Haven, and I am here with Travis, my co-host of the Mostest. Just gonna jump in the background for a second while I show you guys the flag, the flag garden, sorry, that will be in Boston on the 20th of May. If you want to help volunteer, you can sign up for that. I posted the fundraiser in the comments. And then there's also going to be a Irreverent Warriors, the Boston Worcester faction is going to be having their Silky hike in Milford on the 23rd. If you haven't done a Silky's hike, it is a good opportunity to see some veterans, build a camaraderie. It's more of a leisurely walk than a hike. So it's a very good time. You stop at some place along the way and deal with people that respect the community and respect what we're doing out there. So it's a really good time to enjoy everything that's going on in the veteran world and pay homage to our brothers and sisters that are no longer with us. And then it being May, the big thing I gotta start off with is when did Memorial Day going from being a long weekend and become something heavier for you, Travis?
Well, I think for me, it started in the Marine Corps, man. I didn't serve in combat, but I buried 3 Marines while I was touring, and 2 of them were job related. One of them was on Liberty. But still, it hit hard. I mean, and the one of the ones that were on the job really hit hard, and so that's when it really became a day more than just barbecues and other things. Like there was a cost. You've experienced it, I've experienced it in my way, where service is not what we enjoy is bought with blood. So that's when it got really real for me.
Absolutely. And for me, our first loss in our company was before we even got overseas. We had gone from we got Fort Drum. They'd just given us a 4-day pass to go home. And one of the soldiers that we were with went home to Holyoke. He caught his significant other having an affair on him. The other person was there, and the 2 of them got into an altercation. And the man that the significant other was having an affair with wound up killing our soldier. So he was a former Marine as well. And, he was just a great guy that was in the company. And so we lost him, Specialist Tremaine King. We got him hanging up here. The first of the fallen to give some respect to on the month of May. So
I'll tell you, it's a story as old as time, but that happens a lot more than people want. And the thing was, like a lot of guys, he wasn't even out of country yet. He wasn't even deployed overseas yet, and it's already going on. It's just and it ruins. I don't know about you. You've seen as a staff NCO, it ruins some soldiers and Marines and service members.
And the hardest part was like, we're getting ready to deploy, and all of a sudden, we've lost one of our unit members, and then all of a sudden, everything's going on. And the justice system works very slow. And so finally, this individual was put to jail for killing Tremaine. And then all of a sudden, through appeals, the lovely, smart individuals in the Massachusetts Supreme Court decided to overturn the conviction for murder because Specialist King was formerly a Marine and currently a soldier at the time of his death, saying that he must have had, hand-to-hand combat training and things like that made him more an aggressor in the situation, and changed it to manslaughter. And so this person was able to, to get out, after committing, this unaliving. And it's just crazy to us to mourn the loss of a fallen brother, and then to see the person that did it to him, get released because, our criminal justice system is pretty screwed up. And if somebody has the opinion that, you're strong, all of a sudden you can't be murdered.
Yep.
So, but over the years, I have been able to touch base with, King's family. They're, happy to see that, the members of the unit still, keep his name going on, on the different rock marches. Like I said, there's a event with Irreverent Warriors. It's going to be in Milford on the 23rd. And then, or if you want to, plant some flags, they said on the 20th, Mass Military Fund and Home Base will be doing that. And then, do you have any new information on your special series?
Yes, I'm going to do like a more formal update. So a couple things. April 30th or 29th, I think it was the 30th. He went back in front of court. His lawyer had made a motion to let him be released into his own recognizance before trial, and the prosecution really didn't want that to happen. But the lawyer, who's a veteran, did a fantastic job. He is at home right now.
Outstanding.
He's in his own house. The lawyer was able to show that, hey, he has followed all the rules. He's done everything he's supposed to do. It's been amazing. And I got an email from his sister who credits the attention on this case that, hey, this is going on. I don't know much about the legal system. I'm learning a whole lot in a short amount of time, but that just seemed like the good guy got a W. I just really, I don't know much, but I'm like, you're going to have a hard time convincing a jury of his peers that this guy committed domestic terrorism. And the other thing I will say is there's some other people like us in the veteran space who want to amplify the message. I'm being pushed to write op-eds for papers and get that out there and start officially getting the word out there. Not that we weren't right, but it's like, okay, you don't want to say something or do something to impede the case. But to me, let's keep the volume up on this. And just in passing when I talk to other veterans and other healthcare providers, it's like, we should be talking about how this system worked, how the 988 system got the police involved. No one got hurt. No one got killed. And JJ and he went back to the VA, and JJ got the help he needed, and he's still with us. And I never met this guy. I've never talked to him, but I feel like a real connection because there's other veterans out there hurting. And I had talked to one of his, squad mates from this time in the Vermont National Guard, Chad Abbott, who's like,
we showed that last night on the show.
Yeah, well, you saw it, right? He's like, why would any veteran go for help if this is going to happen?
Yeah, they're going to be called a criminal instead of, injured.
So good for him. I mean, first of all, kudos to his sister and his aunt and his cousin, the rest of his family who came around him and supported him during all this. Kudos to the community up there who are like, no, you're not doing this to one of ours. And kudos to everybody who's pitched in to help this guy out. And to me, this is what it's all about, right? Somebody who just needs a a fair shake. I mean, I'm not saying that he doesn't have problems. I'm not saying that there aren't issues there. But when you're going and you're being compliant with treatment and you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing, you shouldn't be punished for it. You shouldn't be punished for it. So, I think we talked about this. My thing is, and I told the family I'm going to do this, hey, we're going to approach the VA and we're going to approach the Vermont ACLU.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot of reading when this law was originated in 2018 and then went into effect in 2023, they wrote several opinions about, hey, this is not really a good idea. And like I've said before, like I'm not really a big fan of the ACLU for a lot of reasons, but in this case, they absolutely got it right. And if there's a way they can, put some leverage to make this, be a different outcome, that's great. But I just want to see JJ, go back to his life, go back to, being the great, uncle, brother, nephew, cousin that he is, and member of the community, and, not let this happen to another veteran.
Mm-hmm. And
So
the
I
big
might
thing.
be talking to somebody. I'm sorry, I might be talking to somebody this week. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to Sunday record an update for it to kind of summarize all this stuff. And then a big shout out to a guy named Rich LaMonica. I'll share this with you later, Mike. He wrote an action plan. I was putting one together. It was taking me some time with everything going on, but it's really succinct about how to engage, how to be polite, how to people to talk to, talking points, stuff like that. Rich, thank you very much for that, man. Really appreciate it. And this is not the time to let off the gas, Mike. This is the time to stomp the accelerator.
Absolutely. And, if you guys go to, hellfishhaven.org / Justice for Vets VT. So Hellfish Haven / Justice for Vets VT. You can see, actually, I'm just going to do a screen share. Hold on right now. Doesn't make sense just to talk about it. Let's show people in action. All right. Share screen. Right. Can you see that, Travis? Look good?
Yeah, I mean, nice landing page.
This is the site. This is the 3 parts. I have to add the 4th part on there of the story. Mailing info. We'll have to update that to change it to, a PO box form. Deployment tips, rotate 3 versions, encourage supporters, add stuff in, send by email, contact forms, physical mail. And, this is where it says right here, this is where, pressure becomes real, not loud, not chaotic, directed, documented, persistent. Every letter is a set of eyes that can help this case. Every message increases the cost of, ignoring it. You're not just telling JJ's story anymore. We're putting it on desks that can't look away. And we've got, a policy and oversight letter to be able to send to, the higher ups, like the Vermont governor and, state senate. We've got the constituent advocacy letter. This is for people that actually live in Vermont. They can send it out to their local representatives. The DA and things like that. And then this one's for vets right here, the veteran community voice letter. This one that we need to send out to the VA, both locally and regionally. And then following that, I've got the the contact information here, the state leadership. And then next one. And then anybody can download this right off the Hellfish Haven page. You got the federal representation, Bernie Sanders, Peter Welch, and the House Representative, Becca Ballant. And then finally on the last page, you've got the VA White House hotline, the crisis line, contact and can ask them, what happened, where's the factor that changed this, where it went to a situation that I shouldn't have. And then the VA regional office, Vermont area, White River Junction, the phone number, address, and website available there. So guys want to be able to push that out to folks. So be really great to be able to see people get the message out and get more people involved with this, because the more people that we can get involved, the more people that will be able to share this story, the more people that they can't just pass the buck and act like it didn't happen. If we get real actionable moves out of these representatives and out of the people that did this in the first place, we can make sure that this doesn't happen again to another veteran down the road. We can make sure that 988 and the Veterans Crisis Line remains a valuable resource for veterans and those having thoughts of hurting themselves. Instead of being something that guys stay away from, it'll be something that they go to. And just because this happened in one area, each 988 locally is run by a state. So as they're running it in the state, they're able to say, hey, we're running this through, Massachusetts, for instance, the Samaritans run the 988. So when you call 988, you're connected to the Samaritans. So as you do that, know that, just because it's happened in Vermont doesn't mean it's going to happen with you. Still reach out, still look at, what else is out there. Military One Source. If you've got like a local, like Massachusetts has the behavioral health helpline, resources like that are available out there too. So don't just, feel like you can't call for help anymore because this happened. Know that these resources are still out there. And, there are anonymous resources you can do too, as chat or, send messages.
Yeah, I want to be clear here. I don't think the 988 crisis line operator did anything wrong. I think there was a protocol to follow, and the protocol was followed. I don't think the Vermont State Police did anything that was wrong. There's some argument, well, they should have gone to him. Maybe so. But a lot of times when you do that with, lights blazing and 15 squad cars, it backs people into a corner. So I'm not a law enforcement officer. I don't know what their protocol is, but you know what? The state police officer, she was able to talk him into coming in, turning over his firearm and his knife, and then they got him to VA care. The VA assessed the situation, got him back on the right kind of meds, and he's been fine ever since. So, I don't think anybody did anything wrong on the front lines, and I don't want that to be lost. That it's a dangerous thing to do. We want you to call the 988 crisis line. We want these resources to be used because he's still freaking here. He's still with us. So.
There are services too. Like Travis said, he's taking the ACLU part. I'm working on the VA side, and looking up the information for the Veterans Justice Outreach Department and the specialists there in the department in Vermont to be able to see what's going on, where the misstep was here, how we can reach people faster if something happens in the future. And what we can do to enable action to make sure this doesn't happen to another veteran anywhere else.
Well, the only thing that I've learned so far is if there's 25 states that have vet courts, there's 25 states that do not. And the feeling is, and again, people aren't going on the record, and I get that. But the feeling is if this was a vet court situation, we wouldn't be in this fix right now, because they have to take certain considerations in for the veteran. So, the only thing I know is that his cousin's looking at drafting legislation, writing a bill and trying to get the bill passed in Vermont. But it certainly underscores the need that, we got to make sure that veterans in this case get looked at differently.
Yep. Yeah, justice for vets, the court, the Veterans Treatment Court and everything, organization called Justice for Vets was founded in 2010 to support, the Veterans Treatment Courts and help the communities, bring together local, state, federal resources, to really serve veterans, involved in the criminal justice system, due to their mental health disorders, due to trauma, due to substance, abuse. And then, 2013, Justice for Vets launched a veteran mentor course to train volunteer veteran mentors and mentor coordinators serving in the treatment courts to be able to go out there and say, hey, I'm out here, I made it through, I'm doing better now, so can you. And so it really is a great resource out there to have these treatment courts and to be able to take a vet and instead of going down the path that just stamps you in to reoffenderville, this is a neutral place where you can actually get treatment specific to your military experience and whatever you're going through now, versus just saying go in the criminal justice system, lift some weights, do your time and come back out angry.
Yeah, I just want to give kudos to his lawyer who's representing him. The easy thing to do would be to go for a plea deal and just end this, but which is why I think this week's judgment was so, such a win.
Mm-hmm.
So, and to me, I get it. You got to save face and all that other stuff, but this is not one of those things that you have to do that with. So,
and then you also gone for a little bit there. You were doing the what was it, Military Creator Con?
Yep.
And you've been able to post up on your website, on OscarMikeRadio.com.
Yeah.
On OscarMikeRadio.com, Travis been posting some blogs up there to show things that he was able to connect with down there. And what's it like when you get around a lot of like-minded military veterans, making content and creating things to be able to bring our stories out there?
Well, I think it's great. I would encourage anyone to get in line for 2027 to apply for a speaker position. If you're a veteran-owned business and want to get in on a network of veterans who are also either A, in their own business, or B, working to support businesses through their service offerings, is a great place to be. James, Van Prian and Mar-a-Lago, the husband and wife team who conceived this idea and put together, they're relentlessly pursuing, a way to make this better. But I think, like I told somebody else, there's no veteran category for, YouTube or, Spotify or Apple. I mean, you're kind of on your own. I mean, it was nice being in a place where it was just veterans and people who support veterans. So I was super, super happy about that. Really, really, pleased with the way it went. It was a lot of work. I was working behind the scenes on a lot of it, but it was worth every bit of it. And, I'll give a big shout out to, Julie and Ashley and my friend, my Marine Corps sister, April Palatino, who came and volunteered with her dad, and her friend Delana, just made it all worth it. And so I'm thinking, Mike, that in, 4 to 7 years from now, it'll be a much bigger event, and it'll only get better, and we will get, treated the way that we deserve. I mean, just because you're a veteran and you create stuff, you have a place at this table.
Mm-hmm.
Your craft has value. Yeah.
And with that, in a world that's run by people, just clicking on things and engaging with something for only 15 seconds at a time, how do we compete with that as vets without losing the authenticity that comes with that veteran title?
Right.
Because I just feel like people click on us and they hear us, but we also have to maintain the honor and the integrity of the label. Being a veteran, you're an ambassador of the service. You're a member of a large community once you get discharged. You're not just that person of that branch anymore. Now you're with every other branch of services, former service members, and now you're part of the veteran team and the veteran family. And I just don't think enough folks give credence to that. You and always be proud of what you've done. You don't elaborate or exaggerate. Just be happy to have served, to be alive, and be home.
100%, man. 100%. I mean, we have value, we have attributes that people, want and can't coach, and we should take advantage of that. So it's just a really positive thing. We'd like to see, more people I know go. And like I said,
Is it going to be the same place next year?
yeah, next year it will be, and then I think for 2028 it might move somewhere else. But it was a good location, not too far from the airport. Lots of things to do around there. One of the things that I'm going to make time for next year is to go to the Medal of Honor Museum, which is in Arlington.
Mhm.
And, there's some things I want to see there. And then, I told somebody, I said, I know people think the Gillette Stadium's a big stadium. Not until you see the new Texas Stadium. Oh my
Oh
God, that
God.
thing is massive.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's just
Any plans for Memorial Day weekend? Did they start coming together yet for you? I know it's still a couple weeks away, but I feel like already, the event calendar is getting filled.
Memorial Day proper. I've got stuff for the town of Abington for sure, and then there's some things going on with Rolling Thunder Mass Chapter 2 they'll try to participate in. And then there's the usual other things. I really kind of hold my breath because you know how it is. No one really gets with you then like the week and a half before. Can you be here? Can you do this? Can you do that? We're having this and that.
Sorry, it's my mic that was on my table. My daughter leaves candy for me everywhere.
There you go.
And it's so funny because this morning she was setting up she's trying to make something for Mother's Day for Jackie. And she takes these little tiny little cupcake containers. And we broke up like a little cracker and then put some sugar on it. She wants to make, this, and then she wants to put a cupcake on top of it. I'm like, Mom's not a big sweet person, but I'm sure she'll love it just because it's yours. It's you making it. So, we're working on that today. But that came out of nowhere for me was Mother's Day. All of a sudden, Jackie said to me, what are we gonna do for your mom? And I was like, wasn't ready for that at all. And then I know Memorial Day, like I said, the 23rd is at the Silkies Hike in Milford. I know a lot of towns have events, things like that. Hey, good evening, Darth Vader. But the one thing that I was surprised at is that on Thursday, May 21st, there is going to be $5 Thursdays, and then admission to the Museum of Fine Arts on Monday, May 25th is free for everybody. So if you want to go, pay your respects, check out the Boston Flag Garden, and then go over to the Museum of Fine Arts and check out the current happenings in the art world there. It's definitely a cool place to visit and see. Each hall that you turn down and spot that you visit, like there's just so much information and things that you can learn just from the artworks of different time periods. It's just really cool to see. So if you're looking for something to do on Memorial Day and don't have it yet, that's going to be what the Museum of Fine Arts is giving away free admission to any Massachusetts resident on the 25th of May. And then I said the 23rd was the Ruck. And then last thing, Travis, is the coming and goings with Iran and our military. What's
about this.
It just seems to be never ending again.
I don't know what to think. Think about it. In his first term, the president was not really a hawk. He did not want to get America into prolonged conflicts. And what he did do were very intense, focused, targeted operations for very clear objectives. And it's hard for me because I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to sit there and tell anybody that I have the inside scoop. I don't know what's going on. But if we were told that we have taken out all of Iran's naval capability. We've taken out their air capability and their surface-to-air capability. Why is a country that is literally on the ground able to keep that Gulf, that strait, shut down?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? And so I don't know what's going on, but I have to think either A, there was bad intel about their capability, and we're getting found out, or B, there is a lack of will to go in there and finish the job. And my concern is all we're doing right now is burning money and equipment and resources in a stalemate. And so, you can't trust them at the negotiating table. Iran has shown you that they will break their own promises. When are we going to get some teeth and actually go in there and finish the job? But again, I don't know what's at stake here. It's not really clear, and it's not really like making sense as to why we even did this way. If they're going to be able to, scare the shipping industry that much.
Mm-hmm. And no, it just feels like there's a lot of unfinished business going on. And, for me, it feels like mentally, people, were being pulled back into that time and that way of things that were going, during OIF, during OEF, and it's not a good feeling to think that guys are being put through this again. And the big thing is you need to just keep mind focused and not let it get the best of guys out there. And something funny I saw.
JJ thing hits me so hard because I'm like, okay, you're going to put us in this position.
Mm-hmm.
And when these guys come home and these women come home and these service members come home, I don't want to hear how we don't have money to take care of them. Oh, well, they did something. Well, we're going to throw the book at them. Or, well, hey, you know what? That job you had, sorry, we can't employ you anymore. Go take some voc rehab and maybe you'll make it. It cannot be that way.
No. So I put in a FOIA request back in January to the Department of Defense and the White House, asking who's running the DOW Rapid Twitter account, because they're very snarky, they're very divisive when military personnel aren't supposed to be political at all. We're not supposed to be putting stuff out there like that. We're not supposed to be driving, one side or the other for engagement, and to have this official, DOW account, pulling this shit, I put FOIA in and said, who's running this? Who's giving them permission? Who oversees the tweets and is, authorizing them to be, put out there with the official, Department of War, stamp, and, the, approved, account on Twitter. And so I got, the standard responses back that, hey, this guy has to go to different little areas. And then for 3 months, I didn't hear anything. So I don't know if you remember from your time in the service, but all civilians and certain military occupations have ICE forms that you can fill out. If not the ICE, immigration customs, but ICE, what's happening, a customer evaluation report. So I went bottom of the everybody's signature block that had, sent me an email, clicked the ICE form, and I, had a negative experience. Guess what, Travis? The next day I got a phone call back.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. So I spoke with a man that has been working with the White House staff FOIA department for 23 years. And he told me that since this administration started, there have been so many cuts that the FOIA requests that they're dealing with in his department, they are 4,000 requests behind that are in a queue that they haven't been able to get to in the 20-day standard. They said because of the personnel that were cut, from the different offices, they're not able to get this, and then they tell me, the first people that they reached out to, they weren't working there anymore. And then they say that the person that's logging into the account isn't the person that's actually running the account. So somebody else is using someone's username to do things on this account. So it's crazy to, for them to call me and tell me last night that they really don't fucking know. And, and it sounds like, one of the organizations that they reached out to doesn't want to tell me who it is. And the other ones are, are going to get back now that, the higher ups have come down and said, why did this, negative report come in? Because he did. He told me that, a lot of these things, went off last night and, it wasn't good. And just, to me, it was wild that, how quick that happened. But, with the rest of the month, I just want guys to know that, keep the optimism up for the month, but, know that it's going to be, an emotional surge, reflection, triggers with Memorial Day, increased, media coverage of the action and the reaction, going on in Iraq and the Middle East, things like, what happened to the base in Kuwait where the soldiers were killed, warmer weather, more social opportunities to go outside, but, some people isolate because of that. And, the VA, events are, ramping up because, there's more opportunities to connect when the weather gets a little better. People can get out of their houses. It's definitely a pressure-filled month, and we just got to stay ahead of it, and and not isolate. Go to these different coffee events, go to your town's Memorial Day event. Enjoy things at like a local level. Is the best way to do things, I think.
Give a big shout out to Dr. Reverend Kristen Coburn and her son Ken Coburn, both Navy veterans. One's a Kinsman Warrant officer, and Dr. Coburn was an officer. And with the American Legion and the VFW, we put on a fantastic Memorial Day ceremony. It's not a parade. It's not a. It's a very. It takes like 45 minutes, and I find that more impactful because it allows me to think about. I didn't know any of these people in Abington who, served, who are being mentioned, but I think about the Marines that I knew and some of the people that I knew who passed during service. Some of my buddies who are no longer with me, but now they were out of the Marine Corps. And so you're right, Mike. You can go to a local event, have the Memorial Day feel, and then, celebrate what it means to be an American all in one day, very nicely. And you're right. Do not self-isolate. Don't be alone during this time.
Absolutely. The best thing that we can do is, honor the fallen by refusing to fall apart alone. You made home, that's not something to be mad at yourself about. That's something, that still matters. You did your job, you made home, live for those that can't.
Yep.
And, the biggest thing too is, as always said, is, the person's story doesn't end and their spirit doesn't end until they stop being mentioned. So as long as we carry on their names, we carry on their stories, their spirit still lives on with that. So, that's why, the names are read, each year. That's why the stories are shared. And that's why, these, small, local events are so important. And that's why it's nice to have the communities that have the small, memorials, in a common place where people will see it more, often and things like that. It's just good to see, those type of things so that people can learn about it and people can understand, what's going on and what the day is meant for, because, the commercialization of it, does affect things. But I feel like, especially now in a time of, conflict and a time of things going on, that this is how, we can reach more people by, having a Memorial Day ceremony that, reaches out and, means something to folks.
Yep. Absolutely, Mike.
So yeah, definitely, thank you, for jumping on tonight. A different day for us. Like I said, I'm going to get that Justice for JJ fourth one up, and we look forward to your next segment, so you can tell us the great news, formally, and we'll definitely be early next week, putting out ideas with that action plan on what to do next, and help folks get more involved, and keep the pressure on, so we can make sure these charges are all not just dropped, but his name cleared. He shouldn't have that stain on his record because of this.
No, I really, I'm not his lawyer, and I'm not a legal professional, but I'm like, I don't see how even the thought of doing a plea deal is acceptable at this point. The charges should be dropped,
Absolutely.
and his name restored, and his rights as a American with regard to the Second Amendment should be restored. So, it's going to be interesting, but we're not going away.
Absolutely.
You're not alone.
Absolutely, brother. And if you need anything, you're also welcome to reach out too, And if you need anything, we can, touch base. We're in contact with your family members. We're happy to help any way that we can.
All right, my man. You take care.
You too. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you, for joining in. We are W.A.R. We are resilient. We'll see you guys next week.
Take care.